Okay, Kristina is a composer and new media artist who has received several awards, and she has appeared on more than 50 recordings in all sorts of genres. Again, if you want the full bio, go to lasertalks.com and you'll find a link to her website, which is, by the way, a show in itself, and extensive bio, all sorts of information. Kristina, all yours.
All right, thank you, Piero. Thanks for having me. Thanks for everyone for being here and to the other speakers. I don't know if I'm unique in this, but when I was a kid, I wished I was an animal. And I'd open an enormous encyclopedia of animals, flip the pages, and whatever animal I landed on, I would pretend to be that animal for that day. In recent years, I've tried to bridge memories of that childhood longing with my interest in the intersection of art, biology, and ecology, and the consideration of diverse sensory experiences. And one of the main threads that's emerged from this exploration is what I'm calling here nanoscapes and soundscapes, or delving into the hidden visual and auditory worlds that surround us but often go unnoticed. A really classic example of diverse sensory experience is a dog's world full of smells we can't detect. But to go even deeper, there are entire realms of existence at microscopic and nanoscopic scales that lie beyond our perception. So this concept is actually a nod to zoologist Jakob von Uexküll's concept of Umwelt, which suggests that each species or each individual lives in its own perceptual world shaped by its sensory experiences and capabilities. So what's important or noticeable to one species might be completely irrelevant or imperceptible to another, and I've become interested in the ways art coupled with new technology can play a role in helping us conceptualize such realities beyond our sensory limits. So I just want to pause and apologize that I am not a frequent speaker, so I'm going to be reading a lot from notes here. But anyway, so I work with sound, music, and visual, so we'll start with sound. Sounds are not simply heard, they're experienced. They exist on a spectrum of intimacy and immensity, often bridging these extremes in natural ways that we take for granted. For example, a soft rainfall on the window and a distant thunder crack. A pebble dropping in a pond and a cliff face dropping into the sea. Or more metaphorically, a drumbeat and the sound of a bat echolocating. The bat's echolocation experience might be as rich and complex as our experience of music, but utterly alien to human understanding. In other words, we live in different soundscapes. The bat's auditory Umwelt is the result of millions of years of evolutionary adaptation to their ecological niche. So this suggests their auditory experience is likely highly optimized and highly specific, highly meaningful within their context. The fact that human hearing differs greatly from the hearing ranges of other species raises questions about reality and perception. How much of our understanding of the world is shaped by the specific range of frequencies we can detect? Tech advances like data sonification and immersive audio systems have made creating and experiencing sound art a rich area for exploring ecological themes. For example, when I'm out field recording, and I put on the headphones and I listen through the microphone, which is most often an ambisonic microphone these days. I have a really expanded sense of dimension, environment, and auditory capabilities. And so my perception of my environment is greatly shifted from a primary sense that is sight to a sense that my primary sense is sound. So let's do a little bit of listening for 4 minutes, just to get out of our human-centered thinking. Generally speaking, human ears are more limited in range compared to many other species, particularly mammals. So don't try to interpret what you're hearing, but maybe just allow questions to arise as you listen. And just give me a second to find this here. Okay. Okay, so what you heard was an artistic rendering of the soundscapes of the greater San Francisco Bay Area, beginning at 1,400 feet above sea level in a Douglas fir forest. We moved through oak woodland and then down to the grasslands and to wetlands. Then we traveled across to coastal scrub, sand dunes and the coastline, and finally we ended in the water at the shoreline and concluded in a deep coastal canyon. This is a list of the voices you heard. Notably absent were human-made sounds due to recording and editing techniques I used. The compressed sense of time and place here in the soundscape is meant to illustrate the high level of biodiversity in our region and draw attention to the voices of our lovely non-human neighbors. One really incredible sound you heard that you might have mistaken for a foghorn is actually a toadfish called a midshipman, which has great stories and oddities associated with it, and leaves one to imagine what this small fish's umwelt might truly be as it produces this enormous sound. I also want to credit the Deep Coastal Canyon recordings to nonprofit Ocean Conservation Research, who I've been lucky to work with on some science communication projects. And to continue challenging our anthropocentric view of reality, let's dive into the visual world, our primary sense. So just as a bat's umwelt is shaped by echolocation, imagine the umwelt of a tardigrade. Or how about a butterfly? The butterfly's umwelt is a multi-sensory experience that includes UV vision, chemical sensing, and possibly magnetic field detection, creating a world perception radically different from ours. Butterflies can see ultraviolet light. This means their visual umwelt includes colors and patterns that we cannot perceive. Their compound eyes provide a different type of visual processing, likely resulting in a very different perception of motion and spatial relationships compared to ours. A couple of years ago, I made 2 short films with a small team that included an animator and 2 biologists, specifically geneticists who study evolutionary development. These films focus on the micro and macro through the wings of butterflies and moths. These are clips from one of the films called Nanoscapes, and this film was made in close partnership with the Martin Lab at George Washington University. We colored still SEM images, taken at up to 50,000 times magnification, and these were actually mostly taken by grad students, and then we animated them and scored the film. One thing I often hear from viewers about Nanoscapes is, wow, this is so beautiful, and that's an interesting comment because that was certainly our intention, but it's also interesting how our concept of beauty is tied to our Umwelt, and that perhaps exploring beyond our natural perceptual limits can reveal new forms of beauty, an elegant truth, so to speak. Butterflies contain intricate nanostructures that create their vibrant colors through structural coloration rather than pigments. Pigments are part of the formula, but many colors that we see on butterfly wings are actually created from structural color. These structures, invisible to the naked human eye, interact with light at the nanoscale to produce the colors we see. The nanoscale structures in butterfly wings represent a level of complexity in nature that exists beyond our natural perceptual limits, yet profoundly influences what we see, such as in these images that I took at the Patel Lab at Woods Hole Marine Biological Laboratory. To finish, I'm going to share the other short film we worked on. The previous slides you saw were from Nanoscapes. This one is called Biopixels. It focuses on the biodiversity and speciation of butterflies and moths. And for me, it was very much born out of thinking of some of my favorite artists and painters. As I looked at these images under the microscope, I often recalled Diebenkorn and other artists I adore. I spent many hours glued to the microscope at Woods Hole capturing images from Nipan Patel's collection of over 50,000 specimens, later working with a wonderful animator, Brandon McFarlane, to bring these stills to life in film. We didn't alter the images. Nothing in this film is altered, but we explored ways to demonstrate the intricacies of speciation. So I don't want to go into depth on any of these points, but just to give you something to think about as you watch the film, there are approximately 200,000 species of butterflies and moths. It's actually about 10% of all living creatures. This multiplicity of Umwelten in a single group of insects highlights the vast diversity of experiences in nature, as each species represents a potentially unique Umwelt. For example, the diversity of wing pattern can reflect different perceptual worlds, such as different UV patterns invisible to our eyes. And most butterflies only live in their adult form, around 2 to 4 weeks. If we think back to ourselves and our own perception of time, our own temporal Umwelt, how does it influence our perception of these creatures, much less our understanding of our own lives or biodiversity and evolution? So again, if you're watching this online, you'll want to pause the talk and go to this link to watch the short. So thank you, and just be a moment.